I will talk about the development of windows and insert units driven by trends, enabled by technology, and I will ask where are the limits. Then I put so I think I'm the only guy using the original template, by the way, but so I stick to the rules. Anyhow, so that is again the topic, and I want to put a disclaimer up front. So disclaimer is that this is not finger pointing towards the glass industry. This is rather telling you the story that we are confronted with in our daily work, that we are driven by trends, that we enable that through technology, and that at the end we are limited somehow, and that as we do not deliver and develop insulating glass units, we rely on you guys. That you open those borders and those limits towards what we need in the future. So I will show you a little bit what drives us. I will look a little bit backwards, historically, where we're coming from, where we're developing to. I give you a snapshot what we're doing today, and I will ask you some questions and give you some objectives where we strive for and where we need you for at the end. So one of the major trends I think that's driving all of us for sure is sustainability. New regulations, growing regulations, new insulation materials. So that has been driving our developments. By the way, is there a chance to get that on that screen as well? Just otherwise, I turn around. Don't worry. I didn't do anything yet. So that has been driving. That trend of sustainability has been driving for sure the development of our window units. We started. Back the days with the non-insulated windows with a depth of 50 millimeters. So when we talk about here 50, 60, 65, we talk about the depth. And the depth is relevant to get an increased insulation property. So we incorporated insulation bars, we increased the depths in order to get down, follow the trends, and go down deeper and deeper with the U values of the frame, ending up with a high insulation property material. And there you can see already that the construction of such a section, it becomes quite tight if you have to introduce insulation materials. Room for integrating the insulating glass unit, it's narrowing down more and more. If we look at the aluminum facade system, so that is section through a facade system, you see an opposite trend. This is the reason for the next trend that I will show you, because now we're looking at the width of the profile. So we started with a 60 millimeter, that's a standard, then we go to 50 millimeters, and at a panoramic design, 35 millimeter section of our frames, we have an increased U value of the frame itself. That brings already the insulating glass unit industry into the field, because getting down the whole value, insulation value of the, or getting up, increasing the insulation value of the whole facade, you need to have quite good insulating glass units. So that brings us, but as I said, brings us to the next trend, which is definitely design and transparency. That is what us as a system provider is absolutely driving us. Design freedom for the architect, panoramic design. This is what the architect wants, and the architect wants that because the customer wants it at the end. So a panoramic view, when we look into sliding doors, that is what we want. A full glass corner. So by the way, I love that panoramic view out of my living room. Or the full glass corner in the next picture, that's a kid's room, by the way. That is what's driving us, what is driving us, what we try to develop, because that's what the customer wants. And not only in the residential market, but also in the commercial and high-rise residential market, that becomes more and more standard. So people are asking for fully integrated, so-called concealed vents, which even you don't see from the inside nor from the outside. That brings quite some challenges towards not only us, but also to the supplying industry in order to supply proper insulating glass units. And if you look into the sections, we see the development, so that's a little bit of backwards view. We see the development that meet this requirement, this trend of panoramic design. Starting with a 60 millimeter, the 50 millimeter, you still can buy that. But if customers really want to follow that trend, and that we see that growing absolutely, you end up at a 35 millimeter panoramic designed stick post facade. And you also can see here that with a standard screw channel, for instance, that won't work anymore. But it has not only an impact on the screws, but it also has an impact on the insulating glass units that you have to bring in. And we even drove that further, because it becomes a problem if you want to combine that with an opening unit. Well, that's why I'm talking here about you. So if we just take the easy system, the standard system, 60 millimeter, put a standard insert unit next to it, we end up with a 12 centimeter wide post, which is absolutely inside and which sticks in my front when I want to look about the lake. You remember that one. So that's why we started to develop either different facade systems and combine them with different panoramic view design systems for the opening units. And step by step, we could decrease that width. It ends up here with a decrease of like 12, 13% when we combine a small F50 facade with a panoramic design window. But it gets even further down. There's a clear need for having a panoramic design facade system combined with a panoramic design opening unit, and it gets even, I would say it gets even worse, although I love that thing. We also start to integrate opening vents into the frame so that you don't see anything anymore from the outside. So this is a 60 millimeter stick post system with a concealed vent, with a fully integrated opening unit. And you already can see from that section that's not easy to handle, nor from the technical development, nor from the fabrication, nor from installation, nor from the component supplier, which is mainly the insulating glass unit. But it looks beautiful. So that is where it starts, and that is how we got that reduced by introducing the panoramic design. And this is now having a concealed vent. So it really looks like a stick post system, and that's what the architect loves. And the customer loves that too. You see from the outside, you just see, the only difference you see is the handlebar. And we're working on that one too. And from the section that you see now, you see it's a real complex geometry. It's a real complex structure. So you have absolutely new parts that are not standard. You have new needs for gluing, bonding, and sealing. You have for sure new needs for the insulating bar. And at the end, it's not standard to assemble that. I think that's pretty clear. But that exists. So that's not a vision. That exists. You can buy it today. And that brings me to the next question. So we saw the trend. That's a typical role that a system supplier takes. So we see the trend, we develop a technical solution, and then we need to make sure that it's applicable. And that means to our customers, we need to provide new ways of fabrication. New way of fabrication means, so you can't just use a standard. It's fine, thanks, it works well now. So that's why, for instance, we developed that calibration table, because we work here with really, really tight tolerances. You can adjust that calibration table. You get support of those air cushions that you can lower down your glasses. We have a different way of bonding technologies. So we use tape to bond the glass in a very quick, very easy to apply, and very, very clean way. So we work with metal fabricators. And so we ensure that we have the bonding by issuing specially developed tools for that. And at the end, we need to make sure that we just not give that to everybody, because we need to control the quality. And quality control starts upfront when we start training and certifying our customers. Because at the end, there's nobody happy if you're out of tolerances, if the window doesn't open, if it just looks odd. So this is something that we need to provide from our side. Application technology, training facilities, certification, and then we are pretty sure that these not standard technology will work pretty well. So that means, okay. So again, we saw the trend, we developed a technical solution, we found the right tools and to apply that, and now it comes to the component supplier. So we are the component supplier of the aluminum framework, but if you looked into that, you see it doesn't stop there. It's including bonding technology, it's including sealing technology, it's also including very much the insulating glass unit technology. We get a new perspective on the tolerances of the glasses and on the bonding technology. And I want to give you an example, and I don't want to dig deeper into that, but there was an evolution of the DIN EN 1279, and that brought us following. So for the windows, the 75 depth panoramic design windows, with the old version, we could stay with the tolerances that the glass industry was providing. With the new version, we have to mention tolerances, because if the glass industry supplies the new tolerances, so uses all the limits that are given in the new one, they won't work with our systems anymore. For that concealed vent that I showed you the video of, we always had special tolerances, I have to admit. But that even gets worse, the delta gets worse with the new tolerances. And that means that there's increased cost. Yeah? So the perspective from the glass industry, maybe that's a guess, they say, no, we can work in that tolerance range, but you need that, which is that far lower, so the prices is increasing in between. And that's kind of contradictive from our side. That's why I say it's not finger pointing, it's opening in discussion. That leads from our side to a very unhappy customer, because he has to pay hell of a cost, wait hell of a time. The architect is not happy because he can't follow his trend of panoramic design, all transparency. The end user at the end are not happy because he has that 12 centimeter block in his side of this panoramic view of the lake. And the investors are also unhappy because they have to balance, do they want to have a nice high design building, or do they want to decrease the cost? That is why I think, and that's why I'm here, the glass industry and the system provider industry, where we definitely belong to, need to work hand in hand and need to develop those ideas, how to solve that. How could that look like? And this is a wish list from my side, and just to open a discussion with you guys. So we would like, as best case, have a commitment on the supply chain. So best would be glass industry commits, that's the tolerances you need, that's the tolerances you get. As I said, it's a wishful dreaming sometimes, I don't know. But it should start much earlier. We should collaborate on such system developments. So this is, right now, we developed that system, then we threw it over the fence, and we figure out at the end that the glass industry is not really prepared, or not, hasn't been involved. And I think it just makes sense to have those things up front and have those discussions or developments somehow jointly. We need a supply chain security. When an architect decides to go for such a panoramic design, he needs to be sure that our customer, the metal fabricator, at the end knows where to buy those highly tolerant glasses. And that's an invitation, it says risk mitigation and risk evaluation. So what does that mean? To me, that does mean if both sides just look to the facts and the figures and just calculate on paper the tolerances that we need, and the other side calculates the tolerances that they are allowed to do, we will never match. But if we talk to each other and, for instance, discuss, so what do you really need? What would be the worst case? So how often do you produce out of tolerances? Huh? Then we can put probabilities together. Then we can start discussing what happens if we are out of tolerance. And so we can mitigate risk, we can evaluate risk, and I think that's a very, very, very fruitful discussion that we need to have. Because otherwise we're just sticking to facts and figures, and we'll never be able to really understand what is needed and what is not needed. So do not let the DIN norms drive us there. Goals and objectives. So we think that the trend for transparency will be standard. We see that growing, and we develop our things into that direction, and we're relatively successful with that, I have to admit. That means construction space becomes less and less and less and less. On the other side, we get an increasing insulation demand. That's a different topic, but we need to bring that aligned. This is why I think an alignment between the glass industry and the system suppliers is crucial to be successful for both of us. Goals and objectives. So this is on the market. So we presented that at the bow, and it's a concealed vent in a unitized system. And we already see today that the architects love that. So you don't see any opening from the inside. You have a 65 to 80 millimeter external view. So this becomes standard, and this needs highly tolerant glasses. So if we talk about that as a system, today, unfortunately, it ends with the aluminium. But if we talk about a holistic system, we need to incorporate the glass industry. That's absolutely crucial for us in order to make that a success, and not to promise anything to our customers. At the end, we can't deliver because other industry component suppliers are not ready to support us there. So that's a big invitation to have in a discussion. Again, you remember the kids' room, all glass corner. We have a certified corner, all glass corner. We have it certified, we have it tested, but at the end, if we really look at that, it's not all glass. If you have a triple glazing unit, you have quite some black stripes in there. So although you don't have a post in there, but it's still not really transparent. So we wish to support that strive for transparency by having maybe different ways of connecting insulating glass unit. And what is the prospect? I put a question mark here. Quad glazing. So I'm looking through the lenses of a system supplier. I know it's not, it won't be. Let's start that discussion. Huh? But if we look at that, that will bring huge problems with regards to tolerances to us. You're having a fourth pane of glass there. We can forget about that opening element that is concealed. That's why it might be insulated, vacuum insulated glass. That's right the other way around. That brings other issues with that, but also that needs to be adapted, or we need to adapt our systems to that. So let's please start discussing that as early as possible, because at the end you are ready to supply those things, and we just don't know where to build it in. Or the all glass corner. So that's a wish list. You see that? That's an all glass corner. It just needs to be tight. It has to be sealed properly. That's how it should look like from our perspective. Then it does make sense that we don't have a post in there. Yeah, but as I said today, it doesn't really look like that. What another prospect, which is relatively important for us, is a sliding hook connector. You see here, it's a 16 millimeter sliding hook connector of story-high sliding doors, and it's not only story-high, it's also like 4, 5, 6 meters wide. So there is quite some stress in there, but the customer just wants it as slim as possible. And you can imagine that in that tight construction room, it's pretty tricky to build in a proper insulating glass unit that carries the load and that is properly sealed and that is probably movable and also durable over the next decade without any maintenance. And you see that that question mark moved here there because that is available already. And this is something that we are asking you, please come and discuss with us and have a proper solution for that, because that is what the customer is asking, and that's becoming more and more and more. So again, wishful thinking and or the wish that I just can offer here, please let's work on that hand in hand. And don't take that as finger pointing again, but please take that as an invitation to start that discussion with us on where we need to go, what we need for that, and yeah, what we can do for each other to have a fruitful business at the end. Many thanks for the attention, and if there are any questions, please feel free. Thanks.
Do we have any questions in the audience?
Was not technical enough.
Oh, no. Overwhelmed.
Yeah, overwhelmed. Still digesting.
Well, so we know each other since quite a while, and we already started discussing this conversation. What I can tell the audience is it's actually not very simple. It becomes rather complicated because sometimes the glass industry is not able to fulfill the requirements because they don't know which tolerances they are achieving. So depending on which production technology they use, they know we are within this tolerance band, but they find it very difficult to come down to a smaller tolerance. So it's not only the facade system provider, it's the glass manufacturer. And from the glass manufacturer, it comes down to the machine manufacturer who produces the processing machines to get the accuracy of the processing machines, to have the right technology in the processing machines. So it affects really the whole supply chain of the industry, which I find very interesting and inspiring to kind of improve it. But unfortunately, there is no straight answer rather than starting talking to each other and figuring out where are the bottlenecks and eliminating them.
And that's what we would like to initiate here. Exactly. It's not that I want to change the whole supply chain and tell the machine fabricators to adjust their machines. No, absolutely not. But we want to start that discussion. We want to understand where the limits are. We want to also develop our future system according to those limits. But first of all, we need to really understand where the limits are. And what I said about risk mitigation, I think that's a crucial point. Because if we don't sit together and discuss really what we need and where the pain points are. We will never understand each other, and we'll never be able to find the optimum way right in the middle. So that's why I invite you to start that.
Stefan, one point that made me think a little bit, when we start improving the tolerances in the production, it takes time. Time costs. In the system developments that you're doing, who's paying for this?
At the end, the customer is willing to pay a premium for panoramic design. But the question how high that premium is. And that's, so it can't be that the glasses are, for instance, like 50% more expensive. That's a premium that they're not willing to pay at the end. That's what we figured out already. We know there's a premium, but that also brings you an added value with the glass industry, because premium also means everybody's earning, and the customer at the end is willing to pay for that. So it's not that we do that for the same price. Absolutely not. We don't sell our stuff for the same price. It's a panoramic design. It's something very special. We get a premium for that, and we are more than willing to share that. But it needs to be on a realistic level.
Do you see the glass industry partnership opening up to this added value? I agree, there's an added cost, but there's also added value. Do you see from your perspective the industry opening up?
Yes, as we are changing, so we are opening up. So somebody needed to open the door first. So that's why we are here. That's why we are talking to you guys at the Glass Performance Days as a system provider. And I feel that there's that I get a positive feedback, that we get into those discussions, but it always could be more. And I think for the future we need to establish a network that we have that discussions, and that brings us more further than we are today. But I see that opening up. Yes, absolutely.
Very good. Any further questions from the floor? Any points? Okay, Stefan, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. Yeah. Thanks.
Hi there. Did you like what you just saw? If you did, why not like the video? Drop us a comment below, as well as share the video with others, since GPD is all about sharing. And to receive more videos in future, subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon for notifications. Ciao.